The idea of playing John Keats came in high school, in the final year in Lit 12, which is when I read about, we were being taught his poetry in Literature 12. And I thought, being a young angst-ridden teenager, I thought, oh, a role full of suffering. What a great character to play. And there's so much suffering in his life. I don't know why nobody hadn't told that story. And then a year later, I stumbled across an old biography of his at a garage sale.
Cool.
And I read that at work, and that really moved me at the end. His final months in Rome really choked me up. And then a year after that, I went to Rome with my brother for a week. I went to his house, and I made sure that I visited his house. And I videotaped every square inch of the house. It took like 3 to 4 hours. It's only like 3 rooms. And then I saved the bedroom for the end. And I just sort of crouched beside his bed there, right near his head. And I just sort of tried to envision him just laying there those final weeks and walking around the room and the covered up. And then when I left that night, I felt really possessive of him.
Did you know at that point already that you were thinking of writing a
I
play?
was already secretly buying books on the Romantics.
Secretly? It's interesting.
Well, just I was buying stuff, putting it in the shelf. I think that's going to be useful one day. I don't know how I'm going to tell his story, but if I ever become a professional actor or writer, I want to tell that story. And then when I got out of theater school in 2007 in the UK, we were encouraged to create our own work in order to keep ourselves fresh as actors. And I thought, you know what? I think the one-man show is the best way to tell this story of Keats. Because I don't have money for a miniseries. If I involve like 15 different characters, then I'm stuck in a particular period. But the one-man show gives me the time to, if need be, become characters, which I didn't think of that at the time. But then it allows me to jump in and out of time, through time. There's no barriers. And so in the winter of 2007, that's when pen to paper began. But then I didn't approach Anne until March 2009, and we went to see the Canadian film 1 week, and we went to Tim Hortons, and I was sick with nervousness that you would say no,
because I was so moved by the film.
I had all these pages of material, but I couldn't think of how to start to sculpt it into the piece, and I asked Anne, which I'd been emailing you back and forth at that time, because I've been like, I think Anne would be really good for this. What do you think of her as a director? Because you worshipped Anne anyways as a director.
Absolutely.
And you said, in an email, if you can get Anne to direct it, that would be an amazing thing. I was so nervous that night. It was like 10 o'clock. We're having chili in a bun in Tim Hortons. And I asked you, I was like, and you knew I'd been writing it. I said, do you want to direct me and help me sculpt what I've done? And you, without hesitation, said yes, which surprised me. I was like, why did you say yes like that? You hadn't seen anything.
Well, because I loved the idea of anything about the Romantics, and we've had this conversation before. I thought of them always, you talked about the pain, and I always think of them as rock stars. You know, they were so full of strength and outsiders that accomplish something. There's a lot of outsiders that you hear about and then you don't hear about them anymore, right? But 200 years later, we're still talking about it. So, and I thought, just like I did with Virginia Woolf, I thought, gee, I know a lot about this. I'll sound smart. Until I started talking to Caleb and I realized, gee whiz, I didn't know any of that stuff. That was part of it. You think you know everything until you begin to really research it, and then gee, I don't know about this period. And of course, he had such a short life. One would think that the information would be easy to obtain, but then I found when I started researching it, you really got to dig to get this information and to get a perspective on who he is, which is the backstory of any good play. Who is that person?
First draft of Act 1, 60 pages, single-spaced, handwritten. That's what we read over a period of like 3 nights, 3 to 4 hours per night. Just insane. And that's just Act 1, or most of Act 1. So what What struck you in the first readings?
Not as much as it was about John Keats as it was about Caleb.
Okay.
So there was so much raw, passionate stuff that wasn't Keats. It was you, and you and I have discussed things privately, but I'll say to you now, there was a lot of very personal episodes in your life that eventually we took out of the play, but they gave that little edge of rawness to the finished product that has never left. The emotions that Keats felt, and because of his sensitivity to life, which is a great difficulty for very intelligent people, the scars that he had are evident because they were things that affected you as well. I was interested in John Keats's life, but I was also interested in Caleb Williamson's take on it.
Well, with Keats, there's a lot of history known, but then there's a lot of period episodes in his life that we don't know anything about. Like his childhood, we know the area, little bits about his family, but we don't know much. Little anecdotes. So like, I have to fill in. I have to try to understand him, but then you fill in the rest with yourself to flesh him out. So he is a blending of me and him. I can't say he's not. So, and this was another thing that you were constantly encouraging me. Got to keep making it active. Don't tell the audience about the moment. Let's relive the moment. And then as we were working together, like you said, we started stumbling, making me become other people in order to create that, make it more active and vibrant and action-packed.
The first active thing that happened was when you stood after Abby, you have the argument with Abby. You were standing there, and I had you at that time with your back to the audience. And I just said, "Can you do a cartwheel?" And he looked at me like, "Why would I do a cartwheel?" I said, "Can you do?" No, he said, "But I can do a somersault." So once you somersaulted there,
yeah, I saw it because your face like lit right up when I did that.
It's your new life. How do you go into your new life? You know, if you leave one life for another, how do you do that? Well, you could tell the audience, you know, in 25 minutes how it felt to go from being a surgeon to being a poet, or you can just do it. So that kind of broke the barrier there. Once you did that, then we were kind of on the roll to making it very physical. I think that the best it was for Caleb was when Gordon came to improv doing Lucas, who was an absolute ogre to Keats, and Gordon wouldn't pay any attention to anything that Caleb wanted him to do. He just did it. And Caleb was so frustrated by, you know, he said, "I don't think Gordon knows the story." And I said, "No, he
Probably didn't.
And you just did things like you picked up the candle and you held the candle so you could look at the injury on the boy. And I can remember Caleb was like, "This is not part of it. This is not what we've done before." And that, you know, of course, I get great delight in seeing actors off balance, because some of the best stuff comes from that. And you had a whole picture in your mind, though, of who Lucas was and what he was going to do.
Yeah, you wrote me a few little notes or something.
I always do.
Because I didn't know the play, and I didn't know a whole lot about Keats. I knew you, we'd worked together before, and I certainly knew Anne. So I just went in with a job, just come in and shake Caleb up, basically, was right. I don't think I'd even heard any of the play, so I had no impression of the play at that time that I remember. But obviously something happened, because I got
sucked in,
drawn in. Yeah.
It's difficult to talk about in visualizing your impending death. Did Keats make decisions to leave Fanny so that Fanny wouldn't see him become like Tom?
Yeah.
Because you had lived through it, and you knew it looked like, and you didn't want to be that.
Yeah. It's a difficult thing, like that whole issue about why he went away. At first I thought he very definitely went away to die. But then once I fell in love and got married, I thought, I don't know. And he was devoted to Fanny. How do you leave behind the fiance and the woman you love to go die in some foreign city a month, like 3 weeks boat ride away? Like, so I have always struggled with that decision and why he made that. And now I think I've got a bit of both. My decision is...
Don't you think he did? So there you go. That's Caleb's life going into the play again, because he must have struggled with that.
And then the other thing was trimming.
Oh.
That was the other big challenge, was cutting, because the play stuck at 3 hours for quite a while, and trimming.
You know, and that pairing was very interesting when you had to bring it down from whatever it was. What was it?
Hour 50.
An hour 50, and you brought it down to 80 minutes or something. And there were scenes that were precious to you, Caleb. I know they were. And you managed to pull them down into a sentence. And you didn't lose the essence of them. It was absolutely amazing. Now, if you expanded it back to a series, it would be wonderful to see all the rest of that. But you managed to pull it down so that well, I don't know, it was because I've seen the thing 1,000 times, but you know, it's still all there. It's
well, that's good.
The essence of it's there.
Let's talk about Nyana's involvement and what she brings as Fanny, because she does bring a very particular sensitivity that I don't have as Keats or as Caleb.
What
It's
I
a
would
beautiful
say,
contrast.
what Nyana brings is what she does to you.
Oh, definitely. Because we worked in such a small way, as it were, with a one-man show. I've noticed this before. You don't have that input. And then Nyana, who is so clear-sighted, and she is, she just can access what she feels very honestly, and that was difficult and great for you all at the same time, because Fanny's role in this play is, it's a one-man show, but Fanny is evident as Keats in the whole of the play.
Yeah.
And she has to be very real.
Yeah.
And there was a certain pushing away that you did for a long time with Fanny, because it was very hard for you to do that character work. She would just say things to you. Well, how do you feel about that? And you would do that. Well, I have to think about that. And I think that, I'm not patting myself on the back, but casting is everything. And certainly, we've had people just fall in love with her from her voice, when they haven't even seen her. And I think that aspect of the play is very tenuous for the audience if they have a vision of who Fanny is. I mean, there was two great things in this young man's life: his work and Fanny Braun.
Yeah, she's very open and very warm on stage, and I have to work very hard to try to get to that point myself as an actor, but she naturally has that ability. So she would, in the rehearsal process, her insight was interesting, and it did throw me off sometimes, but then the letter tweaked in various ways, because she would have an opinion about a line. So I tweak little things, but it was totally, she brings a quality that's totally not Keats, which I think mirrors life in the way that Keats and Fanny Braun really were. I think she kept him on his toes, and she was very different from him. And like he tried a year before he went away to stop seeing her and to sever their engagement, and she wouldn't let him.
No.
You guys all had faith in the play. I wasn't sure when we got to opening night. I was quite panicky behind stage.
I will be honest with you, I wasn't sure that this play was going to work. I think I phoned you and told you.
Oh, wow.
No, not that I wasn't sure, but the time that I was sure. And I'm not sure if it was the dress rehearsal just before. It just moved me so much. And I had seen it so many times and worried about it. And then, oh my God, I don't know what happened. Do you remember that? I don't know what happened. I do not know what happened, but
it seemed like there was
it
the
went
week or two
from
before
Caleb acting to Keats emerging. Something like that. It was, yeah, so.
That week or two before we opened, there was a tension I felt amongst all of us. And I felt really on edge because I didn't think I was giving you what you wanted. And I felt a frustration in you that I hadn't felt before. And that I was getting but you know what's funny is I felt that we would get there, but I was starting to panic the last few days because there was an edge to your direction. I was like, I'm not giving Anne what she wants here, and we are so stinking close to opening. I still felt that we would get there, but there was, and then it seemed like the last couple days, the last couple performances, things clicked for some reason, but I was still terrified. And that opening night, I was almost panicking behind stage. And when I did, coughed up the blood, and the audience was like silent. I thought I had something there. And as soon as I started in the description of Fanny, giggles started coming out of the audience. And then all my worries went away. It was fun, it was only 5 minutes in, but I thought this play works. And I don't know, because it could have sucked after that, but for some reason, as soon as people started giggling at the Fanny letter, I felt the rest was smooth sailing.
I wonder if that's the way it always is. I mean, how can you possibly know that it's going to work before you have the audience? Because that's the...
Yeah.
Caleb was very stiff, and we'd been rehearsing there, and we'd been rehearsing, and you know, you'd got by some of that stiffness, and it all came back. But looking at the way plays usually are, was just about on schedule for it to be very stiff for you, because I don't know if it's stage fright as much as it is the actor wanting to take over. I think that's the hardest part for the actor, is not feeling in charge.
Well, that was funny because you said that too,
I remember
Gordon.
talking about that, because this is all complicated by the fact that Caleb wrote the damn play, and I remember saying to him, "You have to stop being the author."
Yes.
That's what you were going to talk about, wasn't it?
Well, no, I was going to say something else, but you keep that.
You have to now interpret your own work, because you're not the author, and that's what the actor does, is interprets. And I think you had difficulty with that. Maybe that's what happened.
I think the writer's hat was always on, and but then I also think, and I think you said this a lot, when you and Anne were giving me direction and notes, and you would keep looking at Anne and looking at me and saying, I think we need an audience.
Oh, really?
I think this is what we need. He's like, you felt that the play might not work until the audience, because you kept saying that. I think we need an audience. Caleb needs to be talking to an audience. He can't just be talking to us.
That it can't just be about you.
Yeah.
You have to be generous. After the first week that we opened, one of the people at the MAC came and said to me, I've been to a lot of plays, but this play was so real to me. It was like being in the room with Keats. When he looked out the window, she said, it was so wonderful. I felt like I was in the room with Keats. And that was the turning point.
You can't get higher praise than that. That's
when you embrace the audience and they feel like they've entered this little secret door, like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, going into this secret world, and suddenly they're there. Because, you know we're on a stage, we're in an auditorium, the cars are going by, and I mean, we know that. But when you can let go and feel like you've done something magical, then it really works. Gordon is always a good indicator, because he's so truthful with me, and I've heard it
about you behind.
You weren't that subtle in front though either. You can be pretty.
Well, you've said that.
Pretty withering sometimes. Like, damn it, maybe that did suck, because man, Gordon,
I never said something.
No, you never said that. But you would. Sometimes you could be
you
like,
would say, "Don't do that."
Well, I don't remember that. If I said that, I find that quite puzzling.
No,
but what I do remember doing is asking questions, because that's how the questions might have been not so subtle that he might have. Oh, is that what he's after?
No,
that's
it's
possible.
the pauses.
but it made me reek. But the questions were so sharp. I was like, I don't actually know the answer to that.
And of course, you did get quite mother deaf at the end, so it was good to have Gordon there.
But I told you that you have to live milliseconds, not minutes. You know, not little bits. You have to live milliseconds. And if if you pick something up and you're miming it and you pick it up, it can't just suddenly disappear. And everything is like that. As a human being, we don't, kind of strobe light. We're here, we're there. The whole thing flows in our life, and that's what makes theater exciting to me. Is those So I suspect those are some of the things that I was picking on you about. I don't know.
I think with the play, which we talked about this a couple nights ago, I think what the play has given me is a lot of self-belief and self-confidence in my ability as an actor and a writer. And I think it has also shown me that I think I can do almost anything if I put enough work and time into it. So that's invaluable as an actor and writer, to have self-confidence, because so many people are insecure. And then the other thing I think that the play's given me is, and it's been Keats' life that has, is it's inspired me not to give up. Keep writing, keep doing the work, keep performing. If it doesn't work, learn what you can and try to grow to the next project. Don't get stuck. And I still want to stay with Keats a bit more because I think there's more time, but there's other things. So that self-belief, self-confidence, and not giving up. And I think that this play and Keats's life, that's how I've changed. I feel I'm a much more confident performer and writer now. I can do it. I can do all that stuff. And I believe I can learn to get better.